8 Korean companies have been named to Time magazine's inaugural World's Top Health Tech Companies of 2025 list, recognized for delivering the most impactful technologies to enhance health.
미국 주간지 타임이 건강 증진에 가장 영향력 있는 기술을 제공한 것으로 인정받는 기업을 중심으로 올해 처음 선정한 세계 최고 헬스테크 기업 리스트에 한국 업체, 국내 업체 8곳이 포함됐습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so we're starting off with some medical news here. Time magazine unveiling the first ever sort of list. And what's interesting is 8 Korean companies were mentioned. Just to compare, there were 2 Japanese companies, and I think Chinese firms were not even included in this list. But the rankings were based on 3 metrics. They were first, financial performance, second, reputational analysis, and thirdly, online engagement. And what they did was they looked at things like how these firms were able to early detect diseases, diagnose them, and treat them using things like AI and big data. On the other hand, sort of the weaknesses here with the Korean firms were their efforts in preventative medicines for chronic illnesses.
We've always been a leader when it comes to tech, but now it's health tech.
Yes.
And we're doing very well, as you said there. Out of the top health tech companies of the world for 2025, Korea has 8 companies on that list.
Yeah, and if you look at the list, if you look at the list, they're not these conglomerates that you normally see. They're biotech sort of companies that the general public probably are not familiar with these companies, but behind the scenes, these firms, what they're doing in the healthcare and the biotech industry is truly remarkable, I think.
네, 이렇게 한국 기업 8곳이 명단에 이름을 올렸다고 하네요. 세계에서 가장 우수한 그런 헬스테크 기업 리스트입니다. 자, 그런데 이런 리스트가 이번에 처음 나온 건가 봐요? Inaugural list.
Yes, it was the inaugural list, right? INAUGURAL, something that happens for the very first time, an event. This list was the inaugural list. When a president comes into office, you have an inauguration because it's their first time stepping into that position.
그렇죠. Inaugural ceremony 그러면은 이제 취임식이 될 거고 INAUGURAL inaugural이 첫 번째의라는 뜻이 있어요. So this list is the first list of its kind. It's an inaugural list. Now, what about to enhance health?
Yeah, so these companies are, what they're doing is they're improving or they're intensifying or increasing when you enhance something. So when you do that with health, you're usually doing that through, if a person enhances their health, they're changing their lifestyle habits or their choices, for example.
건강을 증진한다, to enhance health. Well, here's the headline again. 8 Korean companies have been named to Time magazine's inaugural World's Top Health Tech Companies of 2025 list, recognized for delivering the most impactful technologies to enhance health. Let's move on to the second headline.
Some 1.7 million people in Korea were taking more than 10 medications for chronic illnesses as of June, according to National Health Insurance Service data, with over 80% of them aged 65 or older.
국민건강보험공단 자료에 따르면 한꺼번에 10종류 이상의 약을 먹는 국내 만성질환자 규모가 6월 기준 170만 명을 넘어섰으며 이 중 65세 이상 노인층이 차지하는 비중이 80%를 웃도는 것으로 나타났습니다.
Yeah, so we're staying on the health sort of theme here. And of course, this is something that you would expect, I think, with an aging society, where according to this data, the number of people who have at least one chronic condition and take multiple medications for at least 60 days rose by more than 50%, Sue, compared to just 5 years ago. And that's a pretty staggering sort of increase, I think. It's been rising every year since 2020. I don't know what the effects of the pandemic may have had on that, but the average here in Korea is much higher than the OECD average, where here in Korea, about 64%. So about 2/3 of Koreans aged 75 or older are taking at least 5 or more medications compared to the OECD average of about 50%. And we call this polypharmacy, when you're using more than multiple drugs, usually more than 5 drugs at one time to treat a condition.
Well, considering how people are getting healthier and aging better than before, I guess this doesn't necessarily mean more people are ill. I guess it's more so that people are aware of all the medications out there and trying to stay more healthy.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that, life expectancy, lifespans are increasing, but also it could be because of the technology and the medicine that we have. But there are also adverse effects of taking a lot of medication, obviously. Things like oversedation, you can have side effects, and just other negative health consequences ironically, by taking all these medicines, which are supposed to make you better.
그래요. 5년 전에 비해서 한 50% 이상 이렇게 많은 약을 복용하는 만성질환자들이 있다고 합니다. 10가지 이상의 약을 드시는 만성질환자가 되겠고 연령대별로 봤을 때는 그중에서 65세 이상이 80%가 넘는 비중을 차지하고 있네요. 우리 약을 복용할 때는 영어로 take 동사 쓰겠죠?
Yes, of course. So you're taking medication. And medications are usually prescribed sort of pharmaceuticals or drugs by a professional or doctor. So you take medication.
약을 복용하다, take medication. And we've mentioned this before, but with most medicines, whether it's oral or something that you put on your skin, actually, do you still use take if you're using some sort of ointment? I guess not.
No.
Not in that case.
Yes. If it's something to your skin, you usually apply it, right?
That's
apply
true,
it. But so
actually.
anything that you take, that's a good point. So because if you take medicine, you're consuming it, or you're using it in the form of pills or tablets or even liquids, right?
Anything that goes inside your body.
Exactly.
Then you'll use the verb take. 그래서 몸 안에 들어가는 그런 의약품 같은 경우에는 take 동사를 써서 약을 복용한다라고 할 수 있겠고요. 자, chronic illnesses, what about that?
Yeah, usually when you're talking about a problem like an illness, if it's chronic, right, CHRONIC, the chron is sort of the prefix for time in Latin, right? So something that's long-lasting and usually difficult to sort of get rid of or eradicate or solve. And for an illness, that'd be a long-lasting health condition. Things like heart disease, diabetes, asthma, these are all chronic illnesses.
Chronic, 만성 illnesses, 질환, 만성 질환을 chronic illnesses라고 하죠. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Some 1.7 million people in Korea were taking more than 10 medications for chronic illnesses as of June, according to National Health Insurance Service data, with over 80% of them aged 65 or older.
Machu Picchu in Peru, the 15th century Inca citadel, named one of the new 7 wonders of the world in 2007, is now at risk of losing its status due to over-tourism and insufficient conservation policies.
15세기 잉카 성체로 2007년에 세계 신 7대 불가사의 중 하나로 선정됐던 페루의 유적지 마추픽추가 과잉 관광 및 당국의 보존 정책 미비로 인해 이 지위를 잃을 위기에 처한 것으로 알려졌습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so like the headline suggests, 2 decades ago, Machu Picchu was declared one of these new 7 wonders of the world. But now what's happening is, of course, over-tourism, a lack of conservation policies, and also sort of the local domestic situation in the country there. What people are saying is that maybe Machu Picchu should not belong on this list. For Peru, it's a very important source of tourism. It's the country's biggest tourist attraction. Over 1.5 million people visit this site every year, but of course the side effect of that is things like garbage and just human traffic there is really damaging this site, which is very beautiful, at least in the pictures, because I've never been.
Oh, nor have I. I was going to ask you that, actually. So the new 7 wonders list started in 2001. So it's not been around for that long, but roughly about 20-something years. And I think people in Korea may be familiar with it as well. We've tried a couple of times to get Korean places or whatever on this list as well. But nonetheless, the Machu Picchu is on the list, but it's at risk of losing its status.
Exactly. And also, just to add, Machu Picchu is included in the UNESCO World Heritage list as well. But that list, I think it's safe for now because it's not at risk of being taken off that list. But,
the new Seven Wonders list is an online poll, and it's based on, or it's led by a Canadian-Swiss company. And I believe the winners are announced every year or every couple of years. The headquarters now, I believe, are based in Europe. But let's have a look at risk of something.
Yeah, so if you're at risk of something, risk is danger, right? So if you're at risk of doing something, the chance or the probability, the likelihood of experiencing something harmful or dangerous or undesirable with a negative outcome usually is happening.
Yeah, at risk of, and then verb with ing normally, right? So
right, exactly.
At risk of losing something, 잃어버릴 위험에 처하다, at risk of falling, 넘어질 위험에 처하다, or maybe at risk of doing something, 뭐뭐 할 위험에 처하다.
Right, or with diseases. We're talking about health a lot these days, but for example, children without vaccinations are at risk of, you can say, serious disease. So not just a gerund, right?
아, 그러네요.
Yeah.
뭐 ing가 오지 않아도 명사 형태로 뒤에 오면은 됩니다. What about a citadel? That's how Machu Picchu is described here.
Yeah, so this is an interesting spelling of a word. Citadel. In American English, the T is sort of softened, right? So it's citadel.
Yep.
And what a citadel is, it's a strong fortress, a fortified sort of area, usually built higher than the surrounding area, and it protects a city or serves as sort of the last line of defense. But figuratively speaking, a citadel would be something sort of a stronghold of power or safety or authority.
요새 같은 거네요. Fortress, 성체, 요새. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Machu Picchu in Peru, the 15th century Inca citadel, named one of the new seven wonders of the world in 2007, is now at risk of losing its status due to over-tourism and insufficient conservation policies. Let's move on to the next headline.
A team of Japanese researchers have won this year's Ig Nobel Prize in Biology for showing that painting cows with black and white stripes halved the number of fly bites, suggesting a potential alternative to pesticides.
올해 이그노벨상 시상식에서 소를 얼룩말무늬로 칠하면 소를 괴롭히는 흡혈 곤충이 절반으로 줄어든다는 사실을 입증해 살충제의 잠재적 대안을 제시한 일본 연구팀이 생물학상 부문을 수상했습니다. 우리 이그노벨상 하면은요, 일단 첫 번째 요건은 웃게 만들어야 되고요. 그 다음에 두 번째로는 잠깐만, 말 되네 하는 과학적인 근거가 있어야 되죠. Tell us about this research and this year's Ig Nobel Prize.
Yeah, so just to add about this Ig Nobel Prize, it's sort of, it's humorous. There is that humorous element to it. It's satirical sort of award, playing off the actual Nobel Prize. But there is actual sometimes and oftentimes medical sort of, or scientific, I should say.
They all have to be based on fact and science.
Right.
It's not a comedy fest.
No.
But they seem funny at first.
They're actual, it's actual research, right?
Actual research, that's right.
And we talk about a lot of these sort of just outrageous. And you think, why are people putting money into this sort of research? It's that kind of thing. And they award this sort of feat or performance.
Yeah.
But in this case, this team in Japan, what they did was they painted cows black and white. And I think if there are pictures out there, you can look. They look like zebras.
They do.
Right? Or zebras, I think, as you say. And the benefit of that would be to sort of prevent flies, which are attracted to, they have visual cues as well.
Yeah.
So it prevents sort of these bugs harming these cows, which is kind of funny to see these cows painted as zebras.
But if this works, I feel like you could paint cows in different animal prints as well.
Yeah, possibly.
Like a tiger or a leopard or a giraffe or any other animal that makes the fly confused and go, oh, maybe that's not a cow. I should stay away.
Yeah. When I think of bees, I think bees, I'm not sure 100% on this, but they're attracted to brighter colors, I think, because of flowers. So I think bees, if you're wearing bright colored clothing, you'd attract bees more often. But I think it's sort of in the same sort of page on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 그래요. 소를 얼룩말 무늬로 이렇게 칠하면은 이런 이제 flies라고 했는데 우리말로 이제 흡혈 곤충들이 덜 소를 공격하더라. 그래서 처음에 들으면은 이게 뭐야 좀 웃기죠. 근데 이제 이그노벨상을 받으려면은 첫 번째 요건이 좀 재밌어야 됩니다. 그 다음에 두 번째는 그거를 뒷받침하는 과학적인 근거, 연구 이런 것들이 반드시 있어야 돼서 이그노벨상이 단순히 노벨상의 패러디인 무슨 코미디가 아니고요. 진짜 다 과학자들이에요. 다만 좀 엉뚱한 생각, 재밌는 생각을 하는 과학자들에게 주는 상이라고 볼 수 있습니다. 상도 재밌잖아요. 상금이 있는데 그게 지금 정확한 금액은 지금 기억이 안 나지만 지금은 화폐 가치가 뚝 떨어진 아프리카 국가 중에 하나의 화폐로 뭐 이를테면은 뭐 1조 이런 식으로 공이 엄청 많이 들어간 그런 이제 수표 같은 걸 하나 주는데 이게 환산을 하면은 돈이 얼마 되진 않아요.
Right.
근데 이제 다만 공이 엄청 많이 들어가서 부자가 된 것 같은 그런 기분. 상금도 웃긴 거죠.
It's like saying I'm a Korean millionaire, right?
비슷해요.
Because I have at least 1 million won
맞아요.
in my bank account.
그리고 이그노벨상에서 또 재밌는 점은 다 재밌어요. 사실 이게 일단은 기본적으로 재미가 깔려있는 그런 시상식이고 그런 이벤트인데 수상 소감 얘기할 때 있잖아요. 그게 1분인가? 이 시간 제한이 있거든요. 근데 그 시간을 넘어서면은 옆에 이제 꼬마 아이가 서 있는데요. 그 시간 넘어서면은 이제 조용히 하라고 소리를 지르기 시작합니다. 아이가. 이것도 너무 재밌는 볼거리예요.
Well,
Be quiet! 이러면서 제 아이가 옆에서 소리를 질러요.
Well, that's what happened at the Emmy Awards this year. I don't know if you watched it, but
그래요?
they're
못 봤어요.
every second so it started off with $100,000 the host put up for donation. Every second that speeches would go over, they would take away $1,000. But
누가 옆에서 조용히 하라 그랬어요?
No,
아니면,
well, every time you go over, every second, you subtract $1,000 from the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Okay, interesting.
But anyways, we digress.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Emmys this year, but okay. Anyway, going back to the Ig Nobel Prize, I love this. The whole concept.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese, go.
Yeah, so it's satire, right?
Yes,
it's a satirical award where you're sort of awarding these quirky or unexpected elements. And the name of the prize, Ig, is actually short for ignoble, which means dishonorable, sort of shameful and unworthy. But these scientific researchers and these research projects are not unworthy by no means, usually.
So there is actually a word called ignoble, but it's IGNOBLE. And then they decided because that word sounds like Nobel Prize, they separated the ig from ignoble, and then they put the Nobel, Nobel, in the name.
Yeah.
So it's Ig Nobel Prize.
Right. And that's a good point. Noble is the stress is on the first syllable, but the Nobel Prize is usually the second syllable.
맞아요.
Nobel.
맞아요. 노벨상 할 때 그 노벨의 강세 뒤에 있습니다. 그래서 Nobel Prize가 아니고요. Nobel Prize예요. 자, 그러면은 it's an alternative to라는 표현도 한번 보겠습니다.
Yeah, this is pretty simple. If something's an alternative, it means it's a different option or a different choice to do something else as a substitute or a replacement.
그렇죠. 대신 할 수 있는 것, an alternative to something.
Yeah. And clearly this headline was taken from a British sort of publication, right? The big hint here is before you write in, a team of Japanese researchers have won, right? Instead of has won.
맞아요. 아주 예리하신 분들은 요거 의문 가지셨을 수도 있는데 문법적으로 a team of Japanese researchers have 이거 안 맞는 거 아니냐. 미국식으로 보면은요. has가 좀 더 자연스러운데 a team has 그러나 영국에서는 a team 같은 이런 표현이 나왔을 때 팀의 여러 구성원들이 있잖아요. 그래서 they처럼 취급을 해요.
Right.
그래서 축구팀 얘기할 때도 예를 들자면은 Manchester United have 이런 식으로
Yeah.
미국에서는 만약에 똑같은 축구 소식을 전한다고 하면 Manchester United has라고 할 텐데 영국에서는 have를 씁니다.
Right. The collective now.
That's right.
Yes.
그래서 have도 맞고 has도 맞아요. 이런 팀 얘기를 할 경우에는 이게 미국식과 영국식의 차이다 아시면 되겠습니다. 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. A team of Japanese researchers have won this year's Ig Nobel Prize in Biology for showing that painting cows with black and white stripes halved the number of fly bites, suggesting a potential alternative to pesticides. Okay, let's move on to the final headline.
A U.S. biotech firm has made headway in reviving the extinct dodo, culturing rock dove cells and aiming to apply the technique to its closest living relative, the Nicobar pigeon.
미국의 한 생명공학 기업이 멸종한 도도새 복원 작업에서 진척을 보였습니다. 이 기업은 바위 비둘기 세포를 배양해낸 자사 기술을 언급하며 이를 도도새와 유전적으로 가장 흡사한 니코바르 비둘기에게 적용시키겠다는 입장입니다.
Yeah, I think it's important to note the significance of the dodo because the dodo bird is a symbol of extinction.
Yeah.
It's an extinct bird, but it's a symbol of extinction because its habitat was in Eastern Africa, I think, near the Indian Ocean, Mauritius.
Was it? Okay.
But when the Dutch colonized in the 16th century, I believe it was, within 80 years, the dodo became extinct for various reasons, for deforestation, just the development and poaching, hunting, things like that. But what these researchers have done, or this firm has done, is they've been able to culture still not fully a dodo bird, but using its relatives, sort of the pigeons. If you look at the pigeons that are going around the streets of Seoul, they look exactly like that, the common pigeon. And what they're doing is they're trying to revive the dodo bird. And this firm was able to do that with other sort of animals, dire wolf pups back in April, but pups, I should say. The difference is that birds and mammals birth their young very differently, right? Birds use eggs. What they're trying to do is they're trying to clone the parents, and from that, they take the genes to try and get the dodo. But still, this is many, many years away.
네, 도도새와 현재 유전적으로 가장 비슷한 새가 바로 이 니코바르 비둘기라고 합니다. 그래서 이 유전자를 배양하면서 똑같진 않겠지만 그래도 우리가 도도새를 어떻게 좀 부활시킬 수 있는 방향으로 가고 있는 게 아니냐 하는 희망이 좀 보인다는 거죠. 정말 성공한다면은 정말 기적적인 일이 되겠죠.
Yeah, maybe the woolly mammoth can come back too.
Maybe.
Then, you know?
자, to make headway is the first expression.
Yeah, headway, one word. To make headway, we usually say to make progress, or to make strides is another way to say it.
진척을 보이는 거예요. 진전을 이루다. 발전이 있었다. To make headway. And to culture something?
Yeah, so in a verb form, to culture, it's the same spelling as when we say 문화, right? Culture. But in science or in biology, to culture something is you're growing something, usually cells or tissues, in a sort of laboratory environment.
So you hear the term or the phrase cultured cells, 배양된 세포 이런 단어들이 같이 붙기도 하죠. 과학 소식 들을 때. 그래서 배양하는 게 바로 culturing입니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A US biotech firm has made headway in reviving the extinct dodo, culturing rock dove cells, and aiming to apply the technique to its closest living relative, the Nicobar pigeon. Well, that's it for the headlines this morning with Shane Harm.
The Korea Electric Power Corporation has decided to freeze electricity prices for the fourth quarter of the year, maintaining the adjusted unit fuel cost at 5 won per kilowatt hour.
한국전력공사가 연료비 조정 단가를 킬로와트 시당 5원으로 유지하면서 올해 4분기 전기요금을 현 수준으로 동결하기로 결정했습니다.
Yes, it's an interesting situation because, well, They make this fuel cost adjustment unit rate by looking at what the prices of everything is in the previous quarter and the preceding 3 months. So it's coal or it's liquefied natural gas, whatever energy source. But KEPCO Initially, they had to lower the rate. It was going to minus 12.11 per kilowatt hour because fuel prices have fallen. But the government, because KEPCO's not in a great financial situation, has frozen that price at 5.1 for this quarter. So that, hopefully KEPCO can keep going. We need electricity. We maybe don't want to pay as much for it as we do, but certainly if we don't have someone giving us electricity, we'll be in a lot of trouble.
So given that you use the same amount of electricity in the future, in the next couple of months,
yes,
as you did in the past couple of months,
it'll be the same, the same as before. Yes.
Okay. So let's look at freezing prices.
Some people might think it's freezing cold this morning. I think it's lovely. But yes, freeze we associate with ice and cold. So if we freeze something, well, we stop it. We make it frozen. So when we talk about a price freeze, that means the price is not going to change. It's not going to go up or it's not going to go down. It's going to stay exactly where it is.
Exactly. To freeze prices는 요금을 동결하는 거고요. To freeze assets 그러면 자산을 동결하는 거겠죠. And to freeze food 그러면은 음식을 동결하다. 음식을 이제 냉동고에 넣어서 얼리다 이런 뜻이 되겠죠. To freeze. 그래서 냉동고가 영어로 뭐죠?
That's a freezer.
Freezer. 그래요.
As opposed to a fridge or a refrigerator.
냉장고는 refrigerator인데요. 보통 줄여서 fridge. F-R-I-D-G-E.
Yes, and if you watch Hollywood movies, well, you might hear this word being used a lot by police officers. Freeze!
멈춰! 이런 의미로 쓰기도 합니다. 자, 다음으로 adjusted.
Yeah, here we're talking about an adjusted unit fuel cost, an adjusted price. And adjusted here means it's been altered, it's been changed, or something has caused it to change. So in this case, it is KEPCO who adjusts the price every quarter. In this case, there is no big adjustment because it's been frozen.
adjusted라는 것은 조정이 됐다라는 뜻이 있는데요. 그 조정 단가를 얘기하고 있거든요. 여기서는요. The adjusted unit fuel cost, which is going to stay at 5.1 per kilowatt hour.
Yes, and we use adjust a lot to mean to change to fit the situation or to change to fit the environment.
adjust, 살짝 조절하고 조정하는 것이란 뜻이죠. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. The Korea Electric Power Corporation has decided to freeze electricity prices for the fourth quarter of the year, maintaining the adjusted unit fuel cost at 5.1 per kilowatt hour. Let's move on to the second headline.
A new study finds that employees who feel they are not respected at work and considered to have little to no workplace social support are significantly more likely to suffer from insomnia.
직장에서 존중받지 못한다고 느끼고 직장에서의 사회적 지지 수준이 평균 이하로 낮은 근로자는 불면증을 겪을 위험이 훨씬 커진다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. Now, I think we kind of knew this even without a study to tell us.
Yeah, it seems logical.
Yeah, if you're having a bad time at work for whatever reason and you don't feel supported or appreciated, then it's very likely that you're not going to get good sleep.
Yes, and this survey was focusing exactly on that, how you were being treated at work.
Yeah.
They surveyed just under 20,000 people, and 3,148 of them reported that they had low levels of workplace support. So that's whether they're being shown respect, whether they're getting good feedback, whether they're being listened to, whether they're getting assistance. And the thing is, those who had low levels of workplace support were more likely to have insomnia. So 12.3% of those in the low support group had it, compared to just 6.2% in the high support group. So it works out 1.47 times more likely to suffer from insomnia if you're getting low work support.
그렇죠. 직장 내에서 존중받지 못한다는 느낌을 받고 어떤 지지를 받지 못한다라는 느낌을 받는 근로자의 경우에는 잠을 훨씬 더 잘 잘 수 없을 것이라는 상상이나 추측은 우리가 이미 좀 할 수 있었는데요. 그런 데이터가 나왔다는 겁니다. 자, 그럼 한번 볼까요? Little to no workplace social support.
Yes, if you have little to no of something, it means you have hardly any of it. Very little at all. Almost none.
그래요. Little to no something. 그러면은 거의 뭐뭐가 없다라는 뜻입니다. 그래서 from 1 to 5 이러면 1에서 5까지
네.
이런 식으로 to를 많이 쓰는데 little to know니까 조금에서 하나도 없는 것까지 이런 의미거든요. 직역을
Yeah.
하자면은.
It's like if it's out of 100, it's 5 to 0.
그래서 이제 사실상 이 표현이 뭐냐면은 거의 뭐뭐가 없다. 자, 뭐가 없어요? 바로 사회적 지지가 거의 없다고 느껴지는 경우, 나를 이제 지지해주고 응원해주고 이러는 분위기나 어떤 사회적인 시스템이 없다. 회사에서야 그런 것이 없다라고 느껴지면 질수록 잠을 좀 잘 못 잔다라는 얘기가 되겠습니다. 자, 그러면 다음 표현을 한번 볼게요. More likely to suffer from something.
Or if you're more likely to more, it means there's an increased possibility.
Right.
It's going to happen more often than not. And if you suffer from something, that means you have some kind of trouble or issue or pain or suffering. So we suffer from a disease, we suffer from joint pain, we suffer from mosquitoes flying around our heads at night. Could be all kinds of things we suffer from, but the point is it's going to have a negative effect on us.
그래요. More likely to suffer from A. I am or you are, he is, she is more likely to suffer from something. 무엇에 걸릴 가능성이 더 크다는 뜻이거든요. To suffer 이 자체는 고통을 받는다, 고생을 한다 이런 뜻이지만 어떤 질병이라든지 여기서는 insomnia, 불면증
네.
이 뒤에 나올 경우에는 이런 것에 걸린다라는 의미로 해석을
네.
할 수 있어요. If you suffer from amnesia, then that means you don't remember things. If you
Yes.
suffer from insomnia, that means you don't sleep well.
Yes, I suffered from insomnia last night. I was
Did
up
you?
at 1:30 in the morning, but don't worry, nobody treated me badly at work. Everyone's very nice to me.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. A new study finds that employees who feel they are not respected at work and considered to have little to no workplace social support are significantly more likely to suffer from insomnia.
Korean researchers at KAIST have confirmed the potential to diagnose Parkinson's disease early and ease symptoms by combining brain nerve modulation technology using artificial intelligence and light.
한국과학기술원 카이스트가 인공지능과 빛을 이용한 뇌신경 조절 기술을 결합해 파킨슨 병을 조기 진단하고 증상을 완화할 수 있는 가능성을 확인했다고 발표했습니다. Tell us more.
This is really exciting because it's the first kind of achievement of this kind, early diagnosis through AI-based behavioral analysis and using light to stimulate neurons. It's been really difficult to diagnose Parkinson's early. The symptoms are very, very subtle at an early stage. But by doing tests on mice, using multiple cameras and AI, looking at how the mice moves, but also looking at how light affects them, they've been able to distinguish mice with Parkinson's much more accurately than ever before. And this means, when it comes to humans, this could be a great early warning device so that we know who might be suffering and then get them the treatment they need.
AI를 이용해서 진짜 파킨슨 병을 조기에 진단할 수 있다면은 상당히 큰 발전이겠죠. You said there were subtle symptoms,
Yes.
which are very hard to detect initially.
Yeah.
But using AI, we may be able to pick those up. If something is subtle, that means it's not distinct, it's not noticeable.
It's
that
not
much.
obvious.
It's not obvious. Thank you.
We talk
Yeah.
about subtle being the antonym of obvious. Obvious, you can immediately see it.
Yeah.
Whereas subtle is a little more sneaky. So, for example, an obvious compliment might be, "Oh, Sue, you look lovely today." A subtle compliment might be, "Sue, yeah, it was really interesting working with you today. Nice job with the outfit, by the way." Just a little subtler.
Subtle, okay. So with AI, we may be able to diagnose Parkinson's early.
Yes, if we do something early, well, it's the opposite of doing it late. We do it sooner rather than later. And to diagnose means to confirm that someone or some animal has some illness or some issue with their body. You can be diagnosed with the flu.
Yeah.
You could be diagnosed with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. We use this term a lot in medical terminology. A doctor will diagnose you, meaning they will tell you what your problem is.
Be diagnosed with something. 무엇으로 진단받다. Or to diagnose. 진단하다.
네.
What about to ease symptoms?
Well, your symptoms are the things that occur because of your illness, because of your condition. For example, if you have a cold, the symptoms most often will be sneezing, runny nose, sore throat, cough, for example. Those are the symptoms. And if you ease symptoms, well, you make them better. You make them less bad than they were. So medicine should, in most cases, ease your symptoms if you're sick.
Absolutely. And that's why we go to the doctors, we get diagnosed with the cold, and then you take the necessary medicine to ease the symptoms.
Yes.
E-A-S-E, to ease, means to make it less so. 뭔가 완화시키는 거죠. To ease the symptoms, 증상을 완화한다. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Korean researchers at KAIST have confirmed the potential to diagnose Parkinson's disease early and ease symptoms by combining brain nerve modulation technology using artificial intelligence and light. All right, let's move on to the next headline.
A family-run butcher shop in Japan is offering highly sought-after Kobe beef croquettes that have a 43-year-long waiting list when purchased today.
일본의 한 가족 경영 정육점에서 고베 소고기, 고베규로 만들어 판매하는 크로켓이 화제입니다. 이 제품은 높은 인기로 인해 오늘 주문할 경우 대기 기간이 43년에 이르는 것으로 알려졌습니다. Talk about something being in high demand. 43 years is how long you'll have to wait if you order this croquette today.
Yeah, but it wasn't always this way. This butcher shop has been around for just under 100 years. It was founded in 1926 in Takasago City in the Hyogo prefecture. And they started selling all sorts of meat and meat products. And then after the Second World War, they had these croquettes. And they were popular, but they weren't that popular until the internet, because it was the early 2000s when suddenly lots of people discovered them. And then there was a waiting list, and then it got longer and longer and longer. In 2022, you had to wait 30 years, and now you have to wait 43 years for a bit of deep fried potato with some beef in it.
Can I ask you a culinary question?
Of course.
What is a croquette?
A croquette is a deep-fried snack. It's usually a deep-fried potato with a filling in the middle. At least that's my understanding of a croquette.
Okay, so this potato fried thing, this croquette,
Yes.
has this expensive beef in it, I guess.
Yeah, the Kobe beef. So a croquette normally will have a filling. You could have a curry croquette, you could have a vegetable croquette, a pork croquette, or a beef croquette.
그래요. 크로켓에 이 고베 비프가 들어가 있고 이 특정한 정육점에서 파는 이게 너무나 인기가 많다 보니까 대기 기간이 뭐 어마어마하네요. 그러면 저희도 주문을 만약에 한다 그러면은 40년 후쯤에 받을 수 있는 거예요?
Yeah, well, at least for the moment. The really funny thing is, you think with a 43-year waiting list, they would be really expensive. But it's actually only 5,000 per beef croquette. It's about 5,000 won a box. They sell these boxes of 5 for about 25,000 won.
So it's not expensive, but
No,
it's just
but it's
really,
really
popular.
So I think that's why everybody wants to get on the waiting list. I don't know whether we'll last 43 years, though, Sue.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of croquettes. However, this one sounds yummy. Let's have a look at butcher shop. That's where they're selling this.
Yes, a butcher shop is where the butchers work, and the butchers are the people traditionally who will cut apart the meat and prepare it or prepare meat products and sell them. I got confused when I came to Korea because I was looking at mask dance, and I thought that baekjung was butcher.
Oh,
Yeah, when in fact it's a slaughterer.
yeah,
Which
it's
is
a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. So a butcher is not a slaughterer. A butcher doesn't work at an abattoir. A butcher is someone who gets the meat, maybe gets the whole carcass, and then will cut it up and then serve it and sell it to customers.
Butcher는 정육사가 되겠고, butcher shop는 정육점이 되겠죠. Now, what about highly sought after?
Ooh, if we're seeking something, we're looking it. So sought in the past tense, and if something is highly sought after, lots of people are looking for it. Lots of people want to get it or find it.
So sought is the past tense of seek.
Yes, it's one of those irregular verbs. You're just going to have to memorize it.
How do you spell it?
S-O-U-G-H-T.
Highly sought after. 매우 수요가 높은, 많은, 사람들이 굉장히 많이 찾는 이라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 다시 읽어볼게요. A family-run butcher shop in Japan is offering highly sought after Kobe beef croquettes that have a 43-year-long waiting list when purchased today. Now moving on, this is our final headline.
An outdoor clothing brand has apologized for a fireworks display in the Himalayan region of Tibet as part of a promotional campaign which drew backlash for its potential impact on the fragile ecosystem.
한 아웃도어 의류 브랜드가 홍보 캠페인의 일환으로 중국 티베트 히말라야 고산지대에서 불꽃놀이 쇼를 진행했으나 이 행사가 이곳의 취약한 생태계에 악영향을 미칠 수 있다는 비판이 일자 공식 사과했습니다.
Yeah, this only happened 4 days ago, but it sparked fury on the internet. It was done in the foothills of the Himalayas in Tibet, and we had these multicolour fireworks, and I'm sure they looked very pretty. They were designed by a Chinese artist as part of this promotional campaign. However, when people saw the videos, they said, hang on, you, the brand, are meant to be all about conservation. And yet, you're setting off these fireworks. You could cause a fire in the scrub. You could scare
this
animals.
In the first place?
Yeah. What about smoke? And so the firm has had this big backlash and have said we're gonna look at how it's impacted the area and we will take care of it. But I think it's perhaps too little too late because critics are saying this will have disrupted the ecosystem, will have disrupted local wildlife. I think people are very upset that a brand that supposedly was all about conserving nature has done something to perhaps cause more natural problems.
아, 그래요. 사실은 이제 outdoor clothing brand, 그 야외에서 우리가 입는 옷을 파는 아웃도어 의류 브랜드이기 때문에 이런 자연, 생태계 이런 것들도 신경을 좀 많이 쓰는 브랜드라고 생각했는데 자연을 좀 훼손할 수 있는 그런 불꽃놀이 행사를 해서 원성을 산 그런 상태입니다. 자, 표현을 좀 볼게요. This event, this fireworks show, it drew backlash.
Yeah, let's deal with draw. If we draw something or someone or a group of people, it means we bring them towards us. For example, if you see a busker on the street in Hongdae, they might draw a crowd, meaning people are attracted, a crowd is attracted and comes to them. But here, this is not positive because it's drawing backlash.
Yeah.
And backlash is some negative outpouring after something happens. It's sort of like the criticism or the anger about something. We call that the backlash.
Backlash가 비난이고요. Criticism. And to draw something이 무언가를 이끈다라는 느낌이 있어서 비난을 불러일으켰다. 이렇게 해석이 되겠네요.
So you can draw praise, you can draw criticism, you can draw backlash, you can draw all sorts of things.
Exactly. Now, what about something that's very fragile?
I like to think of a delicate pottery cup, something like that, that if you were to knock it off the table, smash, it would be destroyed instantly, broken into a million pieces. Because if something is fragile, it will break very easily.
굉장히 쉽게 깨질 수 있는 겁니다. 그래서 택배물에도 이제 깨질 수 있다라는 뜻으로 영어로는 딱 한 단어, fragile
맞습니다.
이렇게 붙거든요. 이게 취약하다, 깨질 수 있다 이런 뜻이 있기 때문에
There's also another 3 words added to that.
Okay.
Fragile, handle with care.
아, handle with care, 취급주의. 앞에는 이제 깨질 수 있음이라는 한 단어, fragile이 많이 붙고요. F-R-A-G-I-L-E 이렇게 쓰는데, Paul, I have a question about the usage of this word.
I'm sorry, I don't know whether I can answer it.
Oh, you seem very fragile
Yeah,
today.
I'm quite sensitive.
Oh, my goodness. So you can use it with people.
You can, yeah. For example, if you've gone through a really bad time, maybe you've lost your job or you've had a loss in the family or something, you might describe yourself as feeling fragile or being fragile. Means your emotions could break, could really be hurt at any moment. So we can describe ourselves, we can describe other people. I'd be very careful with it because when describing other people, we can use it in sympathy, but it's suggesting that they're not strong enough.
Yeah.
So it could be taken as an insult if you're not careful, but certainly, you know, after losing a loved one, for example, that would be a time when someone would be described as fragile.
이렇게 사람한테 마음이 굉장히 약해져 있을 때 그 묘사하는 의미로 fragile person, this person is fragile, or what's the other verb you can use with fragile? This person
Delicate.
But
Oh,
another
a verb, sorry. Well, you can talk about a fragile relationship.
Okay.
So, for example, in politics, in diplomacy, we can talk about Pakistan and India having a very fragile relationship. We often see, military action on the border in
Right.
Kashmir, for example, and tensions can rise very quickly because their relationship is fragile.
그래요. 좀 취약하다, 연약하다 이런 의미로도 쓸 수 있는 단어입니다. 자, 다시 읽어볼게요. An outdoor clothing brand has apologized for a fireworks display in the Himalayan region of Tibet as part of a promotional campaign which drew backlash for its potential impact on the fragile ecosystem. 자, 지금까지 뉴스캐스터 폴 매튜스와 함께 살펴본 헤드라인즈였습니다.
The government will begin covering part of the cost of long-term nursing care, which is currently excluded from the National Health Insurance System, under a health ministry plan set to begin in 2026.
정부는 2026년부터 시작될 보건복지부 정책에 따라 현재 국가건강보험제도에서 제외되어 있는 중증 환자의 간병비를 향후 부분적으로 지원할 방침입니다. All right, let's have a look at this story first then. Tell us what's going on.
So this is going to be great news for people who have need for long-term health care. If you or a family member have a serious medical condition and need long-term nursing care that is currently not covered by the South Korean National Health Insurance system. And so what the government is trying to do is, starting in 2026, they want to try to cover some of these medical costs.
Right. And when we say nursing, we're talking about someone looking after, in this case, someone with an illness or an ailment. So it's a 간병인이 있는 상황, 간병인을 두고 있는
Right.
상황, right?
So it's not just a one-time thing like you're a little bit ill or you had a small accident. This is for people who need long-term nursing care.
Yeah.
You need somebody a little bit more full-time to come and help you with medication and with getting yourself better, getting yourself healthier. And so the government is looking at ways to try to cover more of this burden for people who are paying a lot of money out of pocket.
Yeah.
That means that they are using their own money to sort of to pay for these medical costs. And it can be very, very difficult for families to cover.
course.
So the government eventually wants to get this down to about 30%, so that people are only paying about 30% of the cost, and the government will pay for the rest.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, what does long-term mean? Long-term nursing care.
So long-term refers to a longer duration of time. So when you have something that is extended, something that is maybe not permanent,
Yeah.
but it could be permanent, but something that goes on for a little bit more of an extended duration of time.
In everyday conversation, we sometimes say in the long term or in the short term, blah, blah, blah. That means if you look at it from a very narrow perspective, just within the next couple of days, this is the result you might get. That's in the short term, but maybe in the next couple of years or even longer than that. That's in the long term, right?
Right. So maybe your high school teacher might ask you, what are your long-term goals?
Oh, right.
Right? And so that could be maybe not right after graduation, but maybe what do you want to do
In life. Yeah,
when you
yeah.
grow up. So in this case, we're talking about people who need long-term care. So just not like a one-time thing, but maybe many, many years.
Sure. I think for us this morning, our short-term goal is to get this show done properly.
So your goals for me are so low.
But our long-term goals would be other things, greater, bigger,
Sure.
grander things.
I just want to get through one story at a time.
that would be the short-term goal.
Right.
그래요. 단기적인 것과 장기적인 것을 얘기할 때 long term, short term 이렇게 얘기를 할 수 있죠. 장기적인 게 long term이고요. 자, long term nursing care를 최대한 더 많이 이제 보건복지부에서 커버를 할 수 있도록 노력을 하겠다. Currently, it's excluded from the National Health Insurance System.
Right. So currently, people who need this long-term care, their situation is excluded from the National Health Insurance System. To exclude something, you see the beginning of the word there, EX, that means to leave out, to omit. It is the opposite of to include somebody.
Right. To exclude. 제외하다. So currently long-term nursing care or nursing care in general, I suppose, is excluded from the 건강보험제도 or the National Health Insurance System. However, from 2026, which is just next year, this will likely be covered. The government is going to cover it.
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
It
Okay.
still needs to pass like a policy review, a committee review.
Yeah.
But hopefully this will then be included in the Korean National Health Insurance policy.
Right. And patients will still have to pay some money, but not as much as before if the law gets passed.
Right. It won't be 100% coverage, but the government will try to cover more.
Exactly. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The government will begin covering part of the cost of long-term nursing care, which is currently excluded from the National Health Insurance System under a health ministry plan set to begin in 2026. Let's move on to the next headline.
More than 60,000 people died from scorching weather conditions in Europe during last year's record-breaking summer, according to a benchmark study in the latest warning of the massive toll climate change is having on the continent.
지난해 기록적인 더위로 유럽에서 6만 명 이상이 사망한 걸로 추정된다는 조사 결과가 나왔습니다. 이는 기후변화로 유럽 대륙이 막대한 피해를 입고 있음을 경고하는 가장 최근 사례에 해당합니다. 60,000 people. Wow, that's a lot of lives.
Yeah, that's a very, very alarming number. So we'll get into the numbers here a little bit, but this is a study that was based out of Spain, and the study looked at 32 European countries. So that's obviously a huge population of more than 500 million people, and determined that in the summer of 2024, more than 60,000 people in Europe died because of extreme heat.
Wow.
Obviously, on this show, we've talked a lot about extreme heat and sort of what it does to people. It's hard to say that somebody just died only because of heat.
Right. But it's heat related.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why these numbers are so large because, heat can also aggravate or make worse the situation you already have.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, but in any case, this study looks at how many people were affected by the extreme heat waves across Europe.
Now, you said this was Spanish research, and it involved many countries and many people. It's described as a benchmark study. What does that mean?
Yes, a benchmark, you can use it here as a noun or an adjective. A benchmark is a standard. It is sort of a mark. It is a measure by which other things are then compared. So in this case, if you have a benchmark study, it's sort of it's something that hasn't either been done before or it's somehow new or special or important or relevant in that area.
어떤 기준점이 되는 거네요. Standard. Benchmark study가 그러면 어떤 기준점이 될 만한 연구라고 해석을 할 수 있을 것 같고요. 그만큼 중요하다는 의미고. And this toll is massive. The number itself is massive, but the toll that it's taken is also massive.
Right. Toll, T-O-L-L. Many will be familiar with this word toll just because it's a tax or a fee that we pay. So coming to work this morning, I had to cross the Ilsan Bridge and
the
pay
toll gate. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I had to pay a toll to cross the bridge. When something takes a toll on you, it means it's having a negative effect on you. In this case, this extreme weather is having a massive toll. So a huge toll, enormous toll.
이렇게 통행료까지 내고 출근해 주셔서 감사합니다, 선생님. 우리가 톨게이트라고 하는 게 그 toll, T-O-L-L 이 단어랑 같은 단어이긴 한데요. 그때는 이제 요금, 통행료를 내는 게이트라는 뜻이 될 거고, 그 다음에 이제 보통 사상자 얘기할 때도요, toll, T-O-L-L을 씁니다. 근데 여기서 말하는 a massive toll that climate change is having on Europe라고 했을 때 toll은 막대한 손실, 피해라는 의미로 해석을 할 수 있어요.
Yes, it's an impact, but like you're saying in Korean, it's never a positive impact.
Right.
So if
that's a good
something
point.
takes a toll on you, it's stressful, it's bad, it's
Yeah.
negative, it's never used in a positive light.
When we're in a really stressful situation or have been for a while, then we would say, it's really taking a toll on me, on my health or my life or something.
Right.
And again, we're talking about a negative impact, right?
Correct.
Okay, 다시 한번 그럼 읽어볼까요? More than 60,000 people died from scorching weather conditions in Europe during last year's record-breaking summer, according to a benchmark study in the latest warning of the massive toll climate change is having on the continent.
Demand in the U.S. for corrugated packaging, a staple for shipping everything from food to appliances, has dropped to its lowest level since 2016, a decline some analysts see as a red flag for U.S. consumer strength.
미국에서 피자부터 가전제품까지 다양한 상품 배송에 사용되는 골판지 박스 수요가 2016년 이후 최저 수준을 기록한 가운데 일부 분석가들은 이를 미국인들의 소비가 둔화하고 있다는 위험 신호로 받아들이고 있습니다. 그 corrugated packaging이 골판지로 된 패키징을 말하고 있군요.
Yes, it's the packaging that has like two solid layers and then like a wavy
Yeah.
inside.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what makes it strong but light. And that's typically the packaging that we see come in the mail for, things that we have delivered.
Sure. Well, the fact that less and less people in America are using this means what? What do we know from this?
So we're going to be talking about boxes, and you might think, boxes? Why are boxes important? But here, by these measures, we're using boxes to talk about the economy. Okay. So when fewer and fewer people are buying or needing these corrugated cardboard boxes, what we're thinking here is that people are buying less.
Right.
People are ordering less online. People are buying fewer refrigerators and, clothing items and appliances. And so this is a bad sign.
Right.
This is a red flag for the economy.
Especially for shipping. 택배에 있어서 이런 카드보드 박스가 덜 사용된다라는 것은 아마 택배 자체가 물량이 많이 줄거나 수요가 줄었다는 뜻으로 해석이 될 것 같아요. It says here that the corrugated cardboard packaging is a staple for shipping things in America.
Right. So a staple, it's the same word as when we use a stapler at the desk to put our papers together. But a staple in an economy is something that is a basic item.
Yeah.
We use it often to talk about food items. A staple is something that is a basic unit.
So it's not just food, because we've heard this word for food before, but this time it's not anything about that. It's just, as you said, something regarding deliveries and buying products online or offline or whatever it might be. 자, 여기서 말하는 이제 staple이라는 것은 주요 상품이 되겠네요. 그래서 우리가 보통은 주식 할 때도 staple을 쓰지만 이제 이런 필수품, 주요 상품이라는 의미가 있다는 거 기억해 주시고요. And as you said earlier on, it's a red flag for U.S. consumer strength.
Right. It's a red flag. That means it's a warning sign. It's a bad sign.
Yeah.
It's a bad signal. It is a something that shows that there might be bad news in the future. So a red flag in a relationship can also mean that you should stay away from somebody. Here, the number of boxes that people are ordering has gone down, and so this is a red flag, perhaps, for the U.S. economy. We should also say that the numbers were very high during the COVID pandemic.
Of course.
And so people, also here in South Korea, were ordering everything online, from food to everything, clothes, hand sanitizers. Now that the pandemic is not with us, the amount of shipping box demand has also gone down.
Yeah.
And also, we should say that it's also because companies are using different types of boxes.
Oh,
if you order something, now I think they try to make it a little bit more eco-friendly and fit the item. And that's why these old-style cardboard boxes are perhaps not as much in demand.
Yeah. A red flag 하면은 위험 신호라는 뜻이 있어서 이렇게 미국에서 골판지 박스, 카드보드 박스의 수요가 줄어들었다는 게 사람들이 물건 자체를 좀 덜 사는 게 아니냐라는 위험 신호로 해석이 되기도 하지만 그 이면에는 또 여러 가지 뭐 친환경 소재를 쓰는 것도 있을 수 있고 또 워낙에 코로나 때 많이 사람들이 주문을 했었기 때문에 그때에 비해서 지금은 덜 주문한다라는 어떤 상대적인 해석도 나올 수 있고요. 좀 다양하게 해석이 가능할 것 같네요. You said earlier on that red flag is an expression used for relationships.
Oh, yes.
So I think especially when you're not quite at that dating phase yet, where you're trying to check the other person out.
Right.
Or maybe you are dating, and you're not married yet, for example. And your friends might go, you know what, I noticed some red flags because he or she did this. Then you might want to rethink a future with this person.
Right. So I remember years ago, oh my goodness, this is such an old example, but Oprah, my favorite talk show host, Oprah did a show about women who had seen red flags in their relationships, but still went and got married, and then they regretted it. So red flags in relationships, this is something we say if you see something bad that the person does, often we might ignore these red flags.
Exactly.
On the flip side, these days we also use the term green flag.
Oh, really?
Especially in relationships when somebody is kind, somebody is on time, somebody is sweet and friendly.
Yeah.
That might be a lot of green flags
I like that.
about a person.
All right. Well, if any of our listeners are currently dating and are not sure whether they should move this forward, look for those green flags.
Right.
And that'll be your sign to progress.
Maybe,
But
yeah.
if there are many red flags, maybe think again.
Maybe this will become a relationship advice segment.
But all right. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. Demand in the US for corrugated packaging, a staple for shipping everything from food to appliances, has dropped to its lowest levels since 2016, a decline some analysts see as a red flag for US consumer strength. Let's move on to our next headline.
Paris Saint-Germain's Ousmane Dembele has claimed his first Ballon d'Or after scoring 35 goals and providing 14 assists in 53 matches last season, helping the team secure the Champions League, league title, and French Cup.
세계 최고권위 축구 시상식인 발롱도르의 남자 선수 부문에서 파리 생제르맹의 우스만 덴벨레가 처음으로 수상했습니다. 그는 지난 시즌 53경기에 나와 35골 14도움을 기록하면서 팀 리그 1과 UEFA, 유럽 축구 연맹 챔피언스 리그, 프랑스컵 등 3관왕이 되는데 공헌했습니다. 3관왕이라는 표현이 따로 영어에 있지는 않지만 그렇게 이제 여러 가지 뭐 3가지 정도의 타이틀을 얻었다라고 할 때 그걸 하나하나 나열을 하면 돼요. 우리는 이제 콕 집어서 3관왕 이런 표현을 쓰는데 Let's have a look at sports news then.
Yes. So big news out of the world of soccer.
Yeah.
That Ousmane Dembele, I had to practice his name. Ousmane Dembele has been crowned the newest winner of the Ballon d'Or. This is, of course, the highest individual annual honor given to the best men's soccer player or in areas outside of the U.S., footballer in the world this season.
Korean football star Lee Kang-in is also a member of the Paris Saint-Germain, right?
Yes, so that's how many Koreans will know PSG as being Lee Kang-in's team.
Yes. Alright. 자, 그런데 여기서 이제 Ballon d'Or라고 하는 거, 이게 불어인데요. In English, it would be the equivalent of a gold ball.
Right.
But we call it a Ballon d'Or because it is a French trophy, I guess, or not trophy, but is it a trophy?
Well, it is a trophy,
Yeah, okay.
and just we can say it's
Yeah.
the title in
The
general.
title, okay.
So the Ballon d'Or, in French meaning golden ball, is awarded to the best men's football player, soccer player in the world for that season. So it
Right.
is a very, very high honor.
So Dembele has claimed that title. What does that mean?
To claim something means to take something, and the feeling of the word is that it's kind of like yours. It was yours to take. It's
Right.
kind of like putting your flag on the moon. So he has claimed it. Of course, he had to be given this trophy, but the feeling is that he deserved it. It is his title.
Yeah, in Korea, we would just say he received the award. 수상했습니다. 상을 받았습니다. 아니면 타이틀을 얻었습니다. But in English, we say 그 타이틀을 차지했습니다. 그것이 자기 것이 됐다. He claimed the title.
Right. And we should give a little bit of context or backdrop for this
Yeah.
story. So Dembele had an excellent season, but this is also in the context of his team. PSG had a fantastic season. So you said this a little bit earlier, but they won all the major cups, and the biggest one was the Champions League, which is the most prestigious of all the European clubs. And so Dembele really helped his team be successful this season. And
Yeah.
so that's sort of why he was also considered for the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, he helped his team secure these, the leagues and the titles and things like that. 그래서 이렇게 여러 가지 타이틀을 확보하는 데에 아주 큰 도움이 된, 큰 조력을 한 것을 인정받은 거죠. 자, 그래서 help secure something이라는 표현이 나왔습니다.
Right, not by himself.
No.
He didn't do it all by himself.
No.
Of course, soccer is a team sport.
Yeah.
So he helped secure the success that PSG enjoyed.
Yeah, I know you used to play all sorts of sports when you were younger. I didn't, but because I grew up in England, football was something that I kind of was half forced to do. So I did play quite a lot of football.
Did
Just with the
you?
kids in the neighborhood.
Aw.
Yeah, did you ever play football? I don't think it's big in America, is it?
Well, it's funny because soccer is actually very, 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 very popular at the younger level.
Okay.
So growing up,
Even in the
lots
US?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
When you're in elementary school and up until like high school and stuff, it's very, very popular as a team sport. But for some reason on the national level, it really it's not in the top 4 of American football, basketball, baseball, and maybe I meant the top 3.
Yeah,
but in any
yeah.
case, it doesn't crack the main top 3 sports. It's probably a money thing.
Okay,
It's probably a
it's
money thing.
interesting. Yeah.
But that's why it's so interesting to see Son Heung-min go to LA
Yeah,
and enjoy so much success and really bring the sport to a lot of new fans.
그래요. 우리나라는 축구 팬들 워낙에 많아서 당연히 좋아하시는 분들 많을 거고 미국은 또 어릴 때는 많이 하는군요.
Yes, it's extremely
몰랐어요.
popular.
저는 야구, 농구, 그다음에 미식축구 이런 거 위주로 하는 줄 알았더니 일반 축구도 하는군요.
Those are the top 3. One more thing about the Dembele story,
Yes,
which
please.
is so touching. He was presented the award by Ronaldinho or Ronaldinho, if you want to use the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
And that was quite special because, of course, Ronaldinho being the Brazilian legend.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he also played for PSG
Sure.
years ago. And so he presented the award to Dembele. And Dembele was very touched
Yeah.
and emotional about
How
this.
meaningful. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Paris Saint-Germain's Ousmane Dembele has claimed his first Ballon d'Or after scoring 35 goals and providing 14 assists in 53 matches last season, helping the team secure the Champions League, league title, and French Cup. All right, on to our final story. Let's have a look.
Researchers studying wild chimps in Uganda and Ivory Coast have determined that by consuming large amounts of fermented fruit, the apes take in the equivalent of about half a pint of beer a day.
우간다와 코트디부아르 두 지역의 야생 침팬지를 연구한 결과 침팬지들이 잘 익은 과일을 다량 먹음으로써 매일 맥주 반 파인트 정도에 해당하는 에탄올을 섭취하는 것으로 밝혀졌습니다. Tell us more, Janet.
So, for this story, we go to Uganda and Ivory Coast. 2 national parks in these countries in Africa were studied by researchers, and they found that these wild chimps like to drink. That's sort of the headline. But actually what they did is they studied fruit that had fallen on the forest floor of these national forests, of these national parks, and they found that there's ethanol in the fruit that if fermented, when the fruit is very ripe, it turns into basically alcohol.
Yeah.
And, these chimpanzees are eating this alcohol, or excuse me, the fruit all day. And so it would be the equivalent of like a beer a day for humans.
무화과라든지 자두라든지 이런 과일들을 이 침팬지들이 즐겨 먹는다라고 하는데요. 아프리카 우간다랑 코트디부아르, 영어식으로 하면은 아이보리 코스트, 프랑스어로는 이제 코트디부아르가 공식 명칭이기는 합니다만 둘 다 쓰이는데요. 이제 이 두 나라에 있는 침팬지들이 이제 발효된 과일을 많이 먹어요. 발효되다 보니까 그 안에 소량의 에탄올이 들어있고 근데 문제는 뭐냐면은 이 과일을 엄청 많이 섭취합니다. 그러다 보니 이게 단순히 에탄올 양만으로 봤을 때는 매일 맥주 한 잔, 한 400ml 정도 해당되는 그런 에탄올을 섭취하는 격이고 그다음에 이제 침팬지의 몸무게를 감안해서 생각하면 침팬지가 보통 45kg 정도가 된대요. 좀 가벼운 사람 정도의 느낌이잖아요.
That's lighter than me. Oh my goodness, I thought they were heavier.
그래서 그 몸무게 대비 알코올 양을 비교하면은 그냥 그거보다 조금 더 건장한 인간이 칵테일 2잔 마시는 거 정도의 그래도 꽤 센 술을 마시는 거랑 비슷한 수준이라고 합니다.
Right. It's important to note that chimpanzees eat a lot of fruit.
Yeah,
so they
that's the
eat
point,
about
yeah.
5 to 10% of their body weight in fruit.
Yeah,
and so that's why even though it's a little amount of alcohol, it adds up to be quite a lot.
Exactly. 그 각각의 과일에는 뭐 한 14g 정도밖에 안 되는 에탄올이 들어있지만 과일을 원체 많이 먹다 보니까 이게 누적이 되는 거죠. So there's a hypothesis.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So this is what researchers call the drunken monkey hypothesis. It sounds funny. It is funny. And this hypothesis suggests that humans liking alcohol, humans enjoying a little drink, is actually from ancient times. It actually is in our blood from way back.
Because the monkeys like being drunk.
Right. So this hypothesis says that, monkeys, chimpanzees liked to drink, and maybe now, millions of years later, is why we, as a human race, also like to drink.
우리 인간이 술을 마시길 좋아하는 이유가 어쩌면 과거 우리 조상인이 원숭이 아니면 침팬지과의 동물들이 이렇게 에탄올을 평상시에 많이 섭취했기 때문이다라고 하는 취한 원숭이 가설이 있대요. 근데 그걸 뒷받침하는 연구가 되겠습니다.
Right. And that's called the drunken monkey hypothesis.
All right. So let's have a look at two words here. Determine.
Determine, here when you use it as a verb like this, it means to figure something out. Usually if you aren't sure what's going on, if you determine something, you look at all the facts of a situation and then you reach a conclusion.
Exactly. Determine 하다라는 것은 무언가 확인하거나 알아낸다는 뜻이 있고 그 다음에는 take in. What's that?
To take in is to consume, to put something into your body, into your mouth, into your bloodstream.
Yep.
It is to bring it in.
섭취한다는 뜻이죠. To take in. take가 정말 많이 쓰인다는 거 우리 방송 오래 들으신 분들은 아실 거예요.
Yes.
아주 다양한 상황 속에서 사용되는데 여기서는 섭취하다. take in. Researchers studying wild chimps in Uganda and Ivory Coast have determined that by consuming large amounts of fermented fruit, the apes take in the equivalent of about half a pint of beer a day. All right, well, that's it for our 5 headlines with Janet Lee.
The International Monetary Fund has raised Korea's growth outlook for this year to 0.9%, while leaving its projection for next year unchanged at 1.8%.
국제통화기금 IMF가 올해 한국의 경제 성장률 전망치를 0.9%로 상향 조정하는 한편 내년 성장률은 기존 전망과 같은 1.8%로 내다봤습니다. Okay, so the growth rate has gone up, is that right?
It has gone up a very, very small amount. It's raised the forecast by 0.1 percentage point from 0.8% up to 0.9. So the IMF team, they visited South Korea recently for a couple of weeks, talked to government officials and kind of discussed what's going on in the country. And after this visit, they kind of realized, okay, we will give you guys a small bump up in our expectations.
기존의 0.8% 경제 성장률 전망치를 이번에 0.9%로 살짝 상향 조정했네요. So this is the growth outlook for 2025, right?
Yes. And for next year, 2026, they've left it unchanged at 1.8%. That's what they projected previously. And they've left it at that. So they're saying next year's growth should be double this year's growth.
Much better than this year. What is a growth outlook?
Growth outlook is sort of the expectation, what they think will happen in the future. So it's not 100%, this is exactly what's going to happen, but this is our expectation.
Yeah. 성장에 대한 전망치가 growth outlook인데요. 경제 뉴스니까 경제 성장률 전망치라고 할 수 있겠고요. And to leave something unchanged.
Yeah, usually when we say we leave something, then the amount of change that we expect is going to be minimal or nothing. So they are leaving next year's projection unchanged at 1.8%. Or you could say that, you leave something and it's just kind of going to stay there, right? Much like if you leave your phone on the table, it stays on the table. It doesn't move. You leave it there and it's unchanged, the position of it. In the same sort of way, well, you're leaving the numbers, the projection unchanged. It's staying how you left it.
무언가를 놔두는 거를 leaving it. So leave the keys there. 키 거기다 놔둬. leaving인데 unchanged는 변경사항 없이, 즉 내년 경제 성장률 전망치는 지난번에도 1.8%, 이번에도 1.8% 똑같이 유지했다는 얘기를 they have left their projection for 2026 unchanged at 1.8%. You could change this sentence and say they have kept next year's projection at 1.8%.
Yeah, that's right.
다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, has raised Korea's growth outlook for this year to 0.9%, while leaving its projection for next year unchanged at 1.8%. 방금 저는 이제 0.9%를 0.9%라고 했고요. 이게 영국식이에요. 보통 북미권에서는 그냥 0.9 아니면 0.9 이렇게 하죠?
Yeah, I would say that we usually don't include the zero. I notice in Korea or in Asia perhaps, they tend to say the zero.
Yeah, I don't think we say 0.9%.
Yeah, but we usually just say, 0.9. Yeah,
Okay.
And even when we write it, like I usually don't include the zero when I write it as well. I'll just put 0.9.
Got it.
That's how I write it. That's how I say it.
All right. Well, let's move on to the second headline.
The number of births in Korea rose almost 6% in July from a year earlier, marking the 13th straight month of growth, which the statistics agency attributed to more marriages, a larger number of women in their early 30s, and government child support policies.
지난 7월 국내 출생아 수가 전년 동월 대비 6% 가까이 늘어나며 13달 연속 증가세를 이어갔습니다. 이에 대해 통계청은 혼인 건수 및 30대 초반 여성의 비중 증가, 그리고 정부의 자녀 지원 정책이 영향을 미친 것으로 분석했습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so the rate has gone up. It seems like we talk about this each
Every
month.
now and then.
Every month, I feel like it's like another month that it's improved from the year before. This particular time, it is a 6% increase from last year's July. And it not only is the number of babies going up, obviously, marriages are going up, and they're also saying that the expected number of babies age that women are projected to have in their lifetime is also rising 0.04% on year to 0.8%.
So we have been seeing an improvement for over a year, but we are still under
Way
one
under, yeah.
when it comes to the number of children that women in Korea will have in their lifetime. And this is the lowest birth rate in the world, as we know. But within Korea, we are seeing an improvement.
Absolutely. And, the government's trying to do something about it. They're trying to help out. And it looks like, according to the article, that some of their policies are working.
그래요. 여전히 출산율이 낮긴 하지만 그래도 지난 13개월 동안 조금씩 오르고 있는 모습입니다. 그 전년 같은 달에 비해서 아주 희망적인 소식인 것 같고요. 아무리 조금이어도 우리가 계속 인구에 대해서 걱정이 되는 부분이 많기 때문에 조금이라도 느는 게 안 느는 것보단 낫겠죠? 자, 표현을 좀 보겠습니다. Attributed to something.
If something is attributed to something else, then those are the reasons why this is happening. So it's kind of a cause and effect sort of thing. This is the result, and it's attributed to these reasons.
이러한 것 때문이라고 본다. 그래서 왜 지금 13개월 연속 전년 동월 대비 이 출생아 수가 늘고 있느냐? 자, 첫 번째 이유가 헤드라인에 나온 거는 뭐냐면은요. 더 많은 사람들이 결혼을 하고 있다. 또 하나의 이유는 30대 초반의 여성의 비중이 더 많다. 전에 비해서. 30대 초반이라 하면은 출생을 하는 주된 연령대이기 때문에 그 연령대의 여성이 많다라는 것은 역시 굉장히 희망적이고요. 그 다음에는 이제 마지막으로 Government Child Support Policies, 정부의 자녀 지원 정책이 효과를 발휘하고 있다라고 하고 있는데 What's a child support policy?
So child support is how you take care of children. You support something. The policies are sort of like plans or rules or things that you want to put into place for people to follow or, receive maybe benefits from. But it's sort of a plan of how you're going to improve something. So in this particular case, the government's doing their best to try to make it more appealing to have children or to help you once you do have children.
And this could be in the form of money, stipends, or it could be free childcare, medical checkups, anything that the government...
Education, support, all sorts of different things to lessen the financial burden on the family that are having the children.
자, 그러면은 child support policy라는 게 자녀 양육 지원 정책이라고 할 수 있겠네요.
We often hear the word policy when it comes to government because the government is trying to create different policies or make new rules for the public to follow, to try to make life better for the citizens and the country in general. But you often do hear it when it comes to politics and government talk and stuff like that.
And then there's the saying, honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
We're not talking about politics there, but just, honesty is the best way to go.
Yeah, a way that you live, a sort of like a rule for you to follow is what they're saying there. And, people keep certain policies for how they are going to live. So this is the rule that I follow as to my moral standard or how I try to live.
그래요. 꼭 정치가 아니더라도 이 policy라는 단어가 어떤 방식이라는 의미로도 쓰일 수 있어요. 대부분은 우리가 정책, 이런 정치적인 의미로 쓰긴 하지만 가장 좋은 거는 솔직하게 말하는 것이다 라는 영어 속담 Honesty is the best policy 에도 이 단어가 나옵니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. The number of births in Korea rose almost 6% in July from a year earlier, marking the 13th straight month of growth, with the statistics agency attributed to more marriages, a larger number of women in their early 30s, and government child support policies.
Blazes across Europe this summer caused the continent's largest recorded wildfire carbon emissions in nearly a quarter century, according to the EU Climate Monitor, with the fire season still active.
유럽연합 EU 기후변화 감시기구는 올여름 유럽 전역에 발생한 산불로 배출된 이산화탄소량이 23년 만에 최고치를 기록했다며 산불 시즌은 지금도 진행 중이라고 밝혔습니다. Wow, that's incredible. It was such a big wildfire. Well, not just one wildfire, but many fires. Yeah. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's the largest in the last 23 years. And this is across all of Europe. Of course, the United Kingdom's included. And inclusive of that, fires have released 12.9 megatons of planet-warming carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That was up until September the 15th. And that beats the previous record of 11.4 megatons, which was set in 2003 and 2017.
그래요. 23년 만에 가장 이산화탄소 배출량이 많았던 산불들이었습니다. 올여름 우리가 유럽 산불 소식을 헤드라인으로도 여러 번 전해드렸던 것 같고, 근데 지금 아직 끝나지 않았다라는 얘기가 나오고 있어서 더 우려가 되네요.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a double whammy because not only is it releasing carbon dioxide into the air, but of course it's also burning or eating up trees. And trees, of course, suck in carbon dioxide as well. So it's kind of, on two fronts, it's really negative for climate change.
Yeah. We're talking about the fires here, but it says blazes. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, blazes is basically the same thing as a fire, or if you think of like the flame, right? We think of that can be a blaze as well. There's different ways of talking about fire, and a blaze is certainly one of the different words that we'll use to describe a fire.
So this headline could easily have been wildfires across Europe. Blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you think of like blaze can be more like a verb as well. Like, like it's blazing, right? So like the way that the fire is moving or that it's burning, we think of it as a verb, I think, more often than as a noun.
자, 이 화재, 불이라는 뜻의 blaze는요, 동사로도 많이 씁니다. So blazes across Europe this summer caused a lot of carbon emissions. And we're looking at the most in nearly a quarter century.
Quarter century, a quarter is something that's divided into four. A century is 100 years. So if you divide 100 years into four, then you get 25 years. So we talk about in North America, there's a 25-cent coin.
Yeah.
And that's nicknamed a quarter. So you have $1. And then you have, the denomination directly under that would be 99 cents, right?
Yeah.
99 cents plus 1 cent would be 100 cents, which is $1. But if you divide $1 into four pieces, then you get 25 cents, which would be called a quarter as a nickname.
I feel like the word quarter is used way more in English than it is in Korean in everyday conversation. So even with time, you'll say 8:15,
Yeah.
9:45, whereas in Korea, we never say 9시에서 1시간에 4분의 1만큼이 남았어. We never say that. 그래서 4분의 1이라는 이 단어가 영어에서는 일상 대화 속에도 아주 많이 등장을 하죠. 그게 사실은 그냥 단어가 심플하기도 하고 그게 좀 더 이해하기 쉬운 것 같아요. 영어식으로 생각했을 때는. 그래서 이제 25년이라고 하는 대신에 100년의 4분의 1이라는 표현, quarter century가 나온 겁니다. 그래서 거의 25년 만에, 정확히는 23년 만에 가장 많은 이산화탄소 배출량이 나온 그런 산불들이었습니다.
Yeah, and when you have a quarter, I mean, it's the same thing as a fourth, right? So it would be like a fourth, a third, and then it'd be in half. But we don't really say a fourth very much because a quarter, a quarter, it's just more natural, right? I think a lot of it's probably just because we call the coins, 25-cent coin is a quarter. You hear it so much in that context. But rather than a fourth, we would definitely say a quarter much more.
Exactly.
Whereas, 1 in 3 would be a third.
In Korea, we don't have, I don't think we've ever had a 25원짜리 동전. 이런 건 없죠. 근데 미국과 캐나다에는 다 있으니까 그걸 지칭하는 단어로도 역시 이제 쿼터에서 나온, 뭐라 그러죠? 쿼트? 아니면 그냥 쿼터?
Quarter.
그냥 쿼터라고 해요? 그렇구나.
A quart is an amount of liquid.
Right?
Yeah. I want to say it's like, I don't know the exact amount, but I'm going to guess maybe like 2 or 3 liters.
Okay. quarter century, 4분의 1세기, 즉 25년이라는 단어였습니다. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Blazes across Europe this summer caused the continent's largest recorded wildfire carbon emissions in nearly a quarter century, according to the EU Climate Monitor, with the fire season still active, quote unquote. All right, let's move on to the next headline.
NASA has announced plans to send astronauts on a 10-day trip around the moon as early as next February in what would be the first crewed lunar mission by any country in 50 years.
미국 항공우주국 나사가 이르면은 내년 2월 달 궤도를 10일간 비행하는 임무를 맡은 유인 우주 탐사선 아르테미스 2호를 발사할 계획이라고 발표했습니다. 이로써 국적을 불문하고 유인 우주선의 달 탐사가 재개되는 것은 50년 만입니다. Okay, so we're talking about sending astronauts to the moon.
It's actually not to the moon.
Oh.
They're actually going around the moon.
Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah, there is. So, and the difference being that they're not actually going to land on the moon. So it's like they're doing a flyby.
Got it.
And part of the reason that they're doing this is to be able to land on the moon in the future. So they want to prepare, a base there in the future to be able to do more research and stuff. But before doing that, because they haven't been there in 50 years, they're taking proper steps to kind of scope things out and prepare for that in the future.
Yeah, there's been a lot of unmanned missions,
Yes.
but this is the first crewed lunar mission in 5 decades. Wow.
Very long time.
This could happen as early as next February.
That's right. And as early as meaning that it's not necessarily going to be next February, but the possibility that's probably the soonest time that it could happen. And when we say as early as, I mean, that's the possibility, but it doesn't mean that it will. And that's
Right.
probably the most ambitious time.
이르면은 언제. 그래서 이르면 내년 2월에 바로 이런 달 탐사 미션이 수행이 될 것 같고요. 좀 더 늦어질 수는 있겠죠.
Yeah, it probably won't be earlier, though, because it's saying as early as. So it means that January is probably unlikely.
That's right. How about in what would be something?
And this is, again, talking about something that has not happened, but if it were to happen, then this is what it would be. It'd be the first crewed mission in 50 years, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So we're talking about something that has the possibility, or if it were to happen, then this is what we can call it.
아하, in what would be라는 것은 결과적으로 뭐뭐가 될 것이다. So this lunar mission in February next year would be, or is likely to be, the first lunar mission in about 50 years.
Yeah. Often when we hear about maybe celebrities or someone that, let's say, passed away a little bit early, then you might look at a date like today and say, oh, that person would be 55, or that person would be. They're not, because they're not alive anymore. But if they were still alive, this is how old they would be. So we're talking about we're talking about a reality that is not actually happening in that case, whereas this is something that might happen in the future.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but you get the feel of this is not the case right now, is sort of what we're trying to say.
In the UK, people will talk about the late Princess Diana. And they would say, if she were alive today, she would be, 60 years old or something, because she died so young.
Yes.
That's how you could use this expression. But of course, here we're talking about circling or flying around the moon, this lunar mission, which hasn't happened yet. But when it does, it would be the first mission around the moon in 50 years. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. NASA has announced plans to send astronauts on a 10-day trip around the moon as early as next February in what would be the first crewed lunar mission by any country in 50 years. Let's move on to the final headline.
An oil painting by Pablo Picasso titled Bust of a Woman in a Flowery Hat, which depicts his muse Dora Maar and has been unseen by the public for over 80 years, is set to go under the hammer in Paris next month.
파블로 피카소가 자신의 뮤즈였던 도라 마르를 그린 그림으로 80년 넘게 대중에 공개되지 않은 꽃무늬 모자를 쓴 여인의 흉상이라는 제목의 유화 작품이 다음 달 파리에서 경매에 붙여질 예정입니다. Tell us more.
So this painting was created in July of 1943. That was during the Nazi occupation in Paris. So this is a painting that has not been seen beyond that for, like 80 years. And they're expecting it to sell for almost $10 million. They're saying at least 9.45 million. So we could say pretty much around $10 million.
우리 돈으로는 약 130억 원 정도의 낙찰이 될 것으로 예상을 하고 있다는 거죠. 자, 그리고 이 작품 이름이 Bust of a Woman in a Flowery Hat. 근데 bust 그러면 흉상, the head and shoulders 이런 의미가 되겠습니다. I remember in art class when I was maybe in primary school or middle school, the teacher would say, okay, today we're going to draw the bust of, I don't know, some person. And so it's like head and shoulders of someone. And there's actually a shampoo brand with that name. So some kids, being very cheeky, would just draw a shampoo bottle. They would say, here you go, sir. And he would get very mad. All right, let's have a look at depicting.
Depicting is what you're showing. So you could pretty much replace it with the word show. Depicting, it sounds a little more educated and intellectual, however, though.
묘사한다, depict. And to go under the hammer.
Going under the hammer means that it's being auctioned. And the reason they use this is when something is sold, then the auctioneer will have a hammer or probably a gavel, which is like a wooden hammer that you see judges have as well. They go tang, tang, tang to say, okay, it's sold for this amount of money.
Yeah, I love watching auctions in movies where there's a person who, gets the bidder to say how much or to raise their hand or something.
An auctioneer.
Oh, is that the auctioneer? Okay. So the person that actually uses the gavel also tells the bidders to
I think so.
make their bids.
I
Okay.
guess it could be different people, but I think of it as the same person.
Yeah, that's just so
usually.
exciting because they go, okay, does anyone want to place their bid for this painting? And then someone will raise their little, whatever it is, I don't know, stick
card
or
hand,
something, will raise their hand and they go, okay, it's going for $10,000. No, 12,000. Oh, do we have any for 15,000? It just goes up and up. And then finally, no more over whatever price. And then going, gone.
Or they'll usually going once, going twice, and then sold, usually for the third one.
그렇게
Yeah,
표현하는구나.
you'll often hear.
Going once, going twice, sold. And then that's when they do
The hammer, yeah. Boom.
그래요. 그래서 이 망치를 사용하기 때문에 go under the hammer라는 표현 자체가 관용구로 경매에 붙여진다라는 뜻입니다. 정확하게 말하면은 gavel이고 hammer가 아니지만 모양이 그냥 망치같이 생겼기 때문에 그렇게 표현을 해요.
I actually have a gavel at home.
Really?
Yeah, strangely enough. So I was voted student council president in my high school, and one of the things.
학생회장 하셨구나.
Yeah, one of the things that I received for that was a little gavel that says, Jason Lee, student council president.
Wow, that's so cool.
So yeah, I have a little thing that's at home. My kids love playing with it too.
Do you ever use it with your kids? Who's going to do the dishes today? Is it going to be my first?
Who wants to do it?
Going once, going twice. All right. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 제가 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. An oil painting by Pablo Picasso titled Bust of a Woman in a Flowery Hat, which depicts his muse, Dora Maar, and has been unseen by the public for over 80 years, is set to go under the hammer in Paris next month.